Okay, so if you watched my last video, you know that I was totally an emotional kind of roller coaster with that whole message, and the dreams like got really gave me some big heavy heart emotions that I didn't expect to work through. So that being said, I was like, I'm really just not going to come back and record the second one. But even though I tried to put it off and I went to the store with my son, I came back and the lyrics of a Jungkook song called Please Don't Change popped in. It was the first lyrics. It says lights on camera. So I was like, okay. And because of daylight savings time, it is dark outside. So I'm just going to sit in the garage. So that's why the background looks different. I'm sitting on the floor in my garage. So the confirmation verses for these videos that I've been doing, the last 4 or 5, are all from Daniel, which what brought me there was I want you to hunt in Daniel. That's what I heard. So I'm using the same confirmation verses for all of it because I had all the information. I just broke it up into separate videos. So the confirmation verse is Jeremiah 36:16 from my Christian Standard Bible. I think I said central in a different video, and I don't know why I keep saying that. What I saw was we must surely tell all these things. And then Acts 1:1 from the NLT, I got, what I saw was I told everything. And again, I already said the part, I want you to hunt in Daniel. And you would think that this was going to be about Daniel in the lion's den, but it is not, okay? This is about Nebuchadnezzar's son. What is his name? Belshazzar, okay? So I got led to Strong's Greek number 605, I think. I forgot to write the number down, but it means to cut off and smite. And then I heard lyrics from a song that I've shared before. It's called Connected by Stereo MC, and it says, if you make sure you're connected, the writing's on the wall, but if your mind's neglected, stumble you might fall, stumble you might fall. The lyric that really stands out here is the writing's on the wall. And then I got led to Strong's Greek 840, which means harsh and severe. And I had to dig back in my first dream journal. So this was December 19th of 2022. And I had heard my voice talking to someone. So I was telling this to someone. So I said, Mene Mene Tekel Perrin, and then I paused, and then I said, he tried not to write it on you. And then I heard, numbered days are. And then on December 21st, 2022, I heard days are numbered. And then in the same night, at a later time, I woke up because I heard his pride and arrogance. And then I was led to Strong's Hebrew 8:19, which is wrongdoing and guiltiness. And then Strong's Greek number 8:18, which means to dishonor, insult, despise. And then a dream I had recently, I was shopping in a department store with my husband, and I was just kind of looking for something to wear, some new clothes. And you know how in a department store they have like the misses section, like the teens, the women's, maybe they have an area that's for like a designer, a specific brand. My point is, everywhere that I went and every article of clothing I looked at, whether it was a sweater, a skirt, a pants, dress, whatever, everything was an olive green color. And I didn't care. It didn't shock me. I was just like, oh, look at this one. Look at this one. Everything was that color, except in the clearance aisle, there were some things that were different. And I walked over there because I was like, well, let me take a look in this clearance rack and see what's there. And so there was a woman, she was flipping through the racks, and she picks up this, like, it's like if you have a really worn out white t-shirt, like it's got that vintage feel, it's super soft, but if you're gonna wear it, you probably want to wear like something under it, because parts of it are so sheer. Like, that's the only way I could describe it. And she picks it up and she looks at the price tag and she said, this doesn't seem like a clearance price, and it was $14.95. And then I was like, no, that's the price there hanging on the wall. And it was $11.25. And that's the end of the dream. But from this dream, $14.95, the Strong's Greek is image worship, service or worship of an idol or image. And then Strong's Greek number 1125 means to write. And that tag was hanging on the wall, which goes back to the writing on the wall. Like, guys, I can't make this up. If I wanted to, I was just like, wow, what is this? This is crazy. And then as far as the color olive green, so I should have wrote the website that I got this from, but it makes reference to the olive tree in the Bible, okay? And the olive tree represents God's chosen people, to include the Gentiles, to include people who aren't Jewish. And, because we're adopted into the family through Jesus Christ. And the olive tree, it reminds us that we need, I'm just going to read it. It reminds us that we are saved by grace and not by our own doing. So it warns us against pride and arrogance, which obviously in the last message I talked about King Nebuchadnezzar, and then I even mentioned Pharaoh at the end about them being cut down because of their massive amount of pride and arrogance, okay? So you have to remember that God gives us grace. The things we do in life, it's not because we accomplish them ourselves, it's because God did that for us. We have to give him the glory for it. And as far as the actual color of olive green, in dreams, it's said to represent God's favor, spiritual growth, renewal, fruitfulness, and abundance. And then I'm going to get into the scripture now. It's Daniel chapter 5, and this is going to be the story about King Belshazzar. Okay, so King Belshazzar gave a great banquet for 1,000 of his nobles and drank wine with them. When Belshazzar was drinking his wine, he gave orders to bring in the gold and silver goblets that Nebuchadnezzar his father had taken from the temple of Jerusalem, so that the king and his nobles, his wives, and his concubines might drink from them. So they brought the gold goblets that had been taken from the temple of God in Jerusalem, and the king and his nobles, his wives, his concubines drank from them. As they drank the wine, they praised the gods of gold and silver and bronze, iron, wood, and stone. So he's already using sacred items from God, like the one true God, and he's using those to drink and praise false gods. So that's going to go back to like where it says wrongdoing and guiltiness and to dishonor. You're dishonoring those items, and it's an insult to God, and God despises that. Okay? And then verse 5, it says, suddenly the fingers of a human hand appeared and wrote on the plaster of the wall near the lampstand in the royal palace. The king watched the hand as it wrote. His face turned pale, and he was so frightened that his legs became weak and his knees were knocking. I did a Bible study on this in church, and our Bible study leader, she had said that in one Bible it said that he actually number 2'd his pants. So that's how scared he was with what he saw. So the king summoned the enchanters, astrologers, and diviners. Then he said to these wise men of Babylon, whoever reads this writing and tells me what it means will be clothed in purple and have a gold chain placed around his neck, and he will be made the third highest ruler in the kingdom. Then all the king's wise men came in, but they could not read the writing on the wall or tell the king what it meant. So King Belshazzar became even more terrified, and his face grew more pale. His nobles were baffled. The queen, hearing the voices of the king and his nobles, came into the banquet hall. May the king live forever, she said. Don't be alarmed. Don't look so pale. There is a man in your kingdom who has the spirit of the holy gods in him. In the time of your father, he was found to have insight and intelligence and wisdom like that of the gods. Your father, King Nebuchadnezzar, appointed him chief of the magicians, enchanters, astrologers, and diviners. He did this because Daniel, whom the king called Belteshazzar, was found to have a keen mind and knowledge and understanding, and also the ability to interpret dreams, explain riddles, and solve difficult problems. Call for Daniel, and he will tell you what the writing means. So Daniel was brought before the king, and the king said to him, Are you Daniel? Are one of the exiles my father, the king, brought from Judah? I have heard that the spirit of the gods is in you, and that you have insight, intelligence, and outstanding wisdom. The wise men and enchanters were brought before me to read this writing and tell me what it means, but they could not explain it. Now I have heard that you are able to give interpretations and to solve difficult problems. If you can read this writing and tell me what it means, you will be clothed in purple and have a gold chain placed around your neck, and you will be made the third highest ruler in the kingdom. Then Daniel answered the king, You may keep your gifts for yourself and give your rewards to someone else. Nevertheless, I will read the writing for the king and tell him what it means. Your Majesty, the Most High God, gave your father Nebuchadnezzar sovereignty and greatness and glory and splendor. Because of the high position he gave him, sorry, someone was trying to call me and I'm trying to ignore it. Let me just boop. Not now. Okay, it says, Your Majesty, the Most High God gave your father Nebuchadnezzar sovereignty and greatness and glory and splendor. Because the high position he gave him, all the nations and peoples of every language dreaded and feared him. Those the king wanted to put to death, he put to death. Those he wanted to spare, he spared. Those he wanted to promote, he promoted. And those he wanted to humble, he humbled. But when his heart became arrogant and hardened with pride, he was disposed from his royal throne and stripped of his glory. He was driven away from the people and given the mind of an animal, and lived with the wild donkeys and ate grass like an ox, and his body was drenched with the dew of heaven, until he acknowledged that the Most High God is sovereign over all kingdoms on earth and sets over them anyone he wishes. But you, Belshazzar, his son, have not humbled yourself. So he knew what was going on with his dad, and he still acted the same way. So it said, You have not humbled yourself, though you knew all this. Instead, you have set yourself up against the Lord of heaven. You had the goblets from his temple brought to you, and you and your nobles, your wives, and your concubines drank wine from them. You praised the gods of silver and gold, bronze, iron, wood, and stone, which cannot see or hear or understand. But you did not honor the God who holds in his hand your life and all your ways. Therefore, he sent the hand that wrote this inscription. This is the inscription that was written, Mene, Mene, Tekel, Parsin. Here is what these words mean. Mene, God has numbered the days of your reign and brought it to an end. It repeats twice. So in the Bible, when they repeat something twice like that, it just emphasizes it. Tekel, you have been weighed on the scales and found wanting. And Parsin, your kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and Persians. Then Belshazzar, at his command, Daniel was clothed in purple, and a gold chain was placed around his neck, and he was proclaimed the third highest ruler in the kingdom. That very night, Belshazzar, king of the Babylonians, was slain, and Darius the Mede took over the kingdom at the age of 62. And so that's the end of this message. It's one of those ones where here's a story from Daniel that I'm just sharing it because maybe there's people out there who don't know this one. But I did want to one more time read Proverbs 16:8 through 19, or 18 through 19, where it says, Pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before the fall. Better to be lowly in spirit along with the oppressed than to share the plunder of the proud, or with the proud. So that's it, guys. Always find the light. And again, I just feel like after that last message in this one about pride and arrogance, like, really check your heart, really ask God to show you where in your life you may be having pride, so he can help you remove that from your life. Because, you know, the other guy was punished, turned into a wild animal for seven years. I don't know, 7 times. Who knows how they calculated time back then. And this guy, his life was ended. So just check your heart and make sure that you're not stuck on some level of pride somewhere that you could just let go and give it to God and not have to suffer the consequences of having such haughty pride, you know, whatever. All right, thanks guys. Bye.